Well, hello, and welcome to episode 235 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And we have done a lot of music listening too in our day. Michaela, we've been to a fair number of concerts. We even talked about, I
Mm.
believe, 15 albums. Just like 2 years ago here on the podcast, right during the writer's strike, we switched over to Drink the Music for a little bit. Talked a lot about music there in our day. We love music. We love concerts. We love going to concerts. But we've never taken in the joy that is smell the glove.
Smell the glove. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, smell the glove. It's for those of you who don't know, man, you're in for a wild ride there. I want to say that the cover of Smell the Glove is just epic, epic. It's so good because it's so black and like nothingness. There's like, there's, like I don't think I would have preferred the alternative. I think the alternative would have really grossed me out, but I don't know. I got a great idea. Let's call it Smell the Glove and have it be just a black, shiny album cover.
I believe that it is Blacker Than Black. And of course, Smell the Glove is the eponymous album from the band Spinal Tap. Today we're talking about This Is Spinal Tap. We are getting ready to go see Spinal Tap Part 2, The End Returns, whatever it's called. We're going to be doing that tonight, but first we're going to be talking about This Is Spinal Tap and mixing up a cocktail that is rock star worthy. Simple, easy to do, and we're going to do it when we come back from this break. So let's do that. So let's grab some Jack Daniels and we'll be right back.
So Brian, we've scoured the internet. There's a lot of excitement around Spinal Tap 2. The end continues. So there was a lot of paying homage. There were a lot of cocktail websites, and there were a lot of movie websites that paid homage by making up ridiculously amazing looking cocktails. And I think that's really great. We found one that had like 18 different ingredients, and it was like, this is the 11, turn it up to 11. That's really cool. But when we started thinking about this, we were like, what would Spinal Tap actually drink? And I have a feeling that they were either too stoned, too stupid, too into the muzak to have done much other than like I don't know what every 70s rock star probably drank their face off and melted their face off with, and that is the Jack and Coke.
Yeah, the Jack and Coke. That is as eponymous with rock and roll as is Spinal Tap, the mockumentary from 1984. So let's go ahead and mix up a Jack and Coke. Pretty simple. Go ahead and throw some Jack Daniels and some Coca-Cola into a glass with some ice. You're done. That's it. Sip and enjoy. Of course, you can play around with those amounts and any amount that you like. I have a feeling, the Spinal Tap probably we're going a little heavier on the Jack Daniels. But for myself, I liking these types of two ingredient cocktails. I like roughly like 2 ounces of my base spirit there, and then
Mm.
top that off with the Coke. You can garnish it with a lime, which I like to do for a lot of these as well. It just gives it a little kind of citrusy pop. Kind of makes it a little cleaner tasting. Than it would be, it's just the sweetness of the Coke and the sweetness from the liquor there. And yeah, you have those. You could drink some Jack Daniels, if you want, just plain on its own, right? If you're a rock star. And I really tried hard, Michaela. I was thinking, I was like, how could we mess up the Jack and Coke? Because I feel like if Spinal Tap gathered around the bar and ordered a round of Jack and Cokes, somehow it would not go right at all.
Yeah, they would be like, but this is wild turkey. It'd be like, this isn't Jack. This is Maker's Mark. This isn't Jack. They'd do something like that. And it wouldn't be Coke. It would be something like, I don't know, Fanta or something, right? They'd be like,
It would have
well,
been like Tab in the 80s, probably
right.
for
Oh,
sure.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, what do
Yeah.
you think about a Jack and Coke? It's classic, right?
It is. I mean, it was something that I think really um that was probably the first cocktail I ever really learned to make. Because a lot of people, I mean, it's a go-to for a lot of people because it is so hard to screw up, right? It is literally two ingredients, and the world seems to have both of them in plenty. So I found this to be kind of a this was a drink that I probably started drinking, and I was not into Jack. I was not a I didn't like whiskey or bourbon or any of the kind of the darker liquors from
Mhm.
for a long time. It really my palate had to mature because this can be pretty sweet. Now a Jack and Diet Coke, your girl here loves that. um, because it's all the flavor, and I'm one of those crazy people who actually really likes the taste of Diet Coke. It's to me, it's got all the flavor, but it doesn't have that syrupiness that happens at the end of the drink. But if you are worried about that, you can cut it with lime. Because as you say, it's got that really nice citrusy pop, and it feels a little healthier. I don't know. It's almost a salad if you
Have a
do
fruit
it
in
that
there.
way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right?
And you want to keep those that calorie intake low when you're out on the road, right?
No,
Promoting your new
yeah,
tours. So
yeah.
let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and grab a Jack and Coke. Let's sit down. We'll watch Spinal Tap. We'll relive the glory days of this English rock band's uh, tour, farewell tour. I don't know, not a farewell tour because we're going to be seeing them again here later today. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film. This is Spinal Tap.
Very delicate. It's a bit of a departure from the kind of thing you normally play. What do you call this?
Well, this piece is called Lick My Love Pump.
This is the loudest,
Rock and roll!
most explosive band in heavy metal history. This is Spinal Tap.
It's such a fine line between stupid and clever.
Spoiler warning for This Is Spinal Tap. If you've not seen this, you're in for a treat because it's really actually pretty funny. But we're going to talk about all the things. I have no idea if you need to watch this to enjoy Spinal Tap 2. We'll probably talk about that at some point. But it's only an hour and 22 minutes, Brian. This is a win-win for a number of reasons because things are kind of crazy from a scheduling perspective. But yeah, 122 minutes, and I'm giving this already like an A plus rating. This film is hilarious. It's really pretty funny.
This film is great, and while it did not, invent the genre of mockumentary, certainly it is one of the peaks of that genre, and we're going to talk about that more as we get into the movie here. If you haven't seen it yet, you've had plenty of time. It released in 1984. It was directed by Rob Reiner, who also plays our documentarian Marty DeBurgi, who is profiling the most prolific, loudest rock and roll band of them all, Spinal Tap.
He doesn't even say it's good. He's like, it's the loudest. It's going down. It's the loudest one.
It's the loudest. It's the loudest one, which is exactly what my wife said about our Nine Inch Nails concert a couple weeks ago. The band itself is comprised of lead singer David St. Hubbins, who's played by Michael McKean. Nigel Tufnell is the lead guitarist, played by Christopher Guest. Derek Smalls, played by Harry Shearer, is on bass. Mick Shrimpton, played by Rick Parnell, is our combustible drummer, and Viv Savage, played by David Koff, is the man on the keyboards themselves. So, yeah, so this is a mockumentary. So, what that is, if you're not familiar with that terminology there, it's basically like a fake documentary, right? So we have Marty DeBurgi. I love it. It's like opening up onto like Masterpiece Theater. Is like Marty DeBurgi is like walking through this like kind of like low lit room. It's like
Right.
backstage at some club or something. He's like, "Hello, I'm Marty DeBurgi," which is hilarious because it's Rob Reiner, and he is there to profile Spinal Tap, who is going on their 1982 concert tour here in the United States to promote their new album, Smell the Glove.
Smell the glove, which is really funny because I don't know. I mean, do you remember big like hair 80s bands that had like the
Hmm.
weirdest names? That was like, you know, sticky and sweet and poison, like open up and say ah, it's like
Yep.
so this totally makes sense that they were like smell the glove, which sounds real gross. Actually doesn't sound like anything I would want to listen to. And yet some of their songs are pretty hilarious if you aren't a musician. Like the way the lyrics are good. They're I mean they're interesting. They're yeah.
Well, you got to give him some credit for being good because this is Spinal Tap. It originated from, I guess, kind of like a sketch comedy kind of thing that I believe Michael McKean and Christopher Guest and
Hmm.
I think Rob Reiner kind of put together. But they're actually playing these songs. Like these gentlemen are all very talented
Oh yeah.
musicians on their own. Case in point, if you watch through to Christopher Guest's mockumentaries that he makes later on about local theater and
Mm.
folk singers. So these are very talented individuals here at making this music. But yeah, the music itself is quite hilarious, and I love they do like the montage of their like previous like albums that they done. There's like Shark Sandwich and like a bunch of like just like absolutely like crazy bonkers stuff. But yeah, we're onto this one. It's like their 12th album or something like that. Doing this Smell the Glove, and they're here to promote it to the US. So of course they're coming here. They're playing these big venues. They're very loud. They're going onto stage and playing some hits. You might remember some of the hits here. You got the new one from Smell the Glove, Hellhole, of course. You've got that. You've got all sorts of things. You've got Big Bottom, I think is the first one, the one that they
It's
open
my
up with.
favorite.
That's
That's
your
probably
first.
my favorite.
That's the favorites. Sex Farm. All sorts of good ones. We're going to get into the real banger here later on in the episode. But Michaela, we get into this, right? It's a good like introduction to the band because you kind of meet the players. They're
Mm,
introduced very much like a concert video, right? They're like, lead guitarist, Michael or David St. Hubbins.
right, right. It's I really like the way that it's set up because you get a feel for how these the two main kind of characters, right? Um, the Michael McKean's character and and then this lead singer. Um, like they started off almost as the Beatles kind of esque, in like the
Hmm.
60s, and it
Yeah.
goes like just like you would a real documentary, right? They take them back, they show them pictures of themselves. They're like, hey, how did you meet? How did you find, what's going on with all the drummers? So you meet kind of these individuals as themselves, but then also, get the shape and feel for what the dynamic is like behind the scenes, right?
Hmm.
Michael McKean's character, he has a girlfriend. He refuses. He's not married to her, and he's like, "I'm never getting married." But she's like his better half, and he's on the phone with her constantly. He can't live without her. Her name's Janine. She shows up halfway through like this tour that's not going well. I really love this because while all of these things are happening, they also have this moment where they're like in front of a castle being interviewed like quite properly. Like, where did you get, the inspiration for Big Bottom? And they're like, well, you know, it's it's so hilarious because we have watched so many documentaries that have
Yeah.
like followed this formulaic thing, but have it, but not in a parody, not in a satirical way. And so to see like when they talk, for example, like Pearl Jam will talk about like their guitars, and like I will love that. I love that scene where the amps, they're like, well, our amps go to 11. This one goes to 11. It's like, but it doesn't have to. How do you, why don't we just make 10 louder? And they're like, but it goes to 11. It's
Goes
like,
to 11. Yeah, absolutely. There's like amazing documentary style stuff. So actually the Peter Smokler is the cinematographer here on the movie.
mm,
He was a documentarian, which is why it has that look and feel. And like, there's so much of it that is, yeah, rooted in music documentaries. We both really like music, and I am a big documentary fan, so I'll watch a lot of those. And we just saw Led Zeppelin documentary, and one of the main parts of the Led Zeppelin documentary is it's the members of Led Zeppelin kind of here in this like American like cafe diner kind of thing with like the laminated little like bench seats and things, and that's where a large part of this film takes place, where David St. Hubbins and Nigel Tufnell are being interviewed by Marty DiBergi in like an identical looking place to like this actual real documentary that exists about Led Zeppelin, and they're talking about yeah their childhood friendship, how they began writing like songs together when they were like 12 years old. And I think that's like kind of like the biggest like little like hook of the movie is these kids were friends and they're writing the songs, and we've heard a couple of the songs now at this point in the film, and they're all like way over the top, and it's just like absurd, like laughing out loud absurd at these songs that they've written. And they're talking about this first song that they wrote like as little kids, and it's like a dead serious song about this girl that they liked, like the singer like
mm.
walk home from school, and they were like schoolboys. I was like, oh, it's like a real like actual song, and now it's like this big like over the top hair metal kind of a thing. And I really really liked that. Those are probably the highlights of the film for me. I mean, the concerts themselves are fun because wacky stuff happens. We'll talk about that, but I like the kind of like sit down like interview parts because I think that those are where the comedy really kind of sits in. It's not as like situational comedy as the concert performances. It's more of just this really like witty writing. That
Yeah.
these comedy geniuses got together and were like, this would be funny.
Yeah, I mean, and the dry delivery is amazing. Christopher Guest, I mean, I knew him and loved him from um, The Princess Bride. That was where I was introduced to him, right? And so, everybody thinks
Another
that
Rob Reiner
line
film.
like exactly, yeah. And everyone loves the line where he's like, if you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything. Like it's really like dry, super dry
Hmm.
humor. And when they're like interviewing all of the people about the drummer, because they have had 75 drummers because they all seem to die. And they all die in these really like one like simultaneously combusts, one like chokes on someone's vomit. They don't know whose vomit, but the way they just talk about it as if it's
You
just
can't
like
check it for DNA.
you can't really, I mean, the way they just talk about it in the most driest, like matter of fact sense, it is truly comedic because you're just, I mean, and it makes you wonder, right? As you look at the layers of this film, like sometimes once you get to a certain level of famousness, do you just lose all touch with what's right or wrong in reality? Like, because they seemingly have, right? They don't understand. Why certain things are happening kind of the way that they are. They don't see anything wrong with the label of their new record, Smell the Glove. And, even when it's like explained to them, like, this is incredibly sexist, they're like, is it? Is it? And then they're like, well, are you sexist? And they're like, well, yeah, but no. I mean, but is it? Is it that bad that we are? Like, they just don't even, it's so funny. In their delivery of it and then kind of their reliance on each other. I wonder how much of it was written and how much of it was
Hmm.
kind of lived,
Improvised. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
improvised over. But because they were such a tight-knit kind of comedic group that they just kind of, they would kind of read each other's thoughts and kind of insert certain bits and to make it what it is, what we end up seeing on the screen.
Yeah, I love that. I love the origin of the name Spinal Tap, right? They go through the band's name there was originally the the originals, and then someone else already had that name, and then they changed their name. So they had to go through all these band name changes. But here we are in America for this tour. The tour dates themselves are pretty fun, and it's kind of hilarious because they keep just like dwindling, like in size and scope as we lose less or we lose less and less interest or have less and less interest in the band of Spinal Tap. But I love it. It's kind of a big like arena kind of a thing at the start, and then it's like a pretty big club, and they're doing it's meant to be loud and kind of raucous. Seems like everyone's having a good time, and they end up like playing at like these like like super like tiny places and getting canceled all out. But some of like the stage stuff that happens in here is really funny. There's of course Stonehenge, which is featured prominently in the second one. I'll let you talk about that one. But I think my favorite is I don't even remember what song it is. They're coming out of the cocoons. And
Yeah.
the bass player gets stuck in the cocoon until like the very end of the song, and he comes out right as everyone else is going back into their cocoon. That one's the best one because it's so like awkward feeling. Like watching it, I I'm just imagining myself like being at the concert and seeing this unfold, and you're just like, what is happening?
Right. Well, I mean, and they really try hard to get him out of the cocoon. Like they're using a hammer in the back. They end up getting they get
They
a
have a
blowtorch.
blowtorch.
I
Yeah.
get real nervous. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna set him on fire. I mean, and the chemicals from from the plastic that's, got to be in not good. It's probably got tons of carcinogens in it. That's probably bad. Yeah, the Stonehenge ones is great because they decide they're gonna do this like I don't know. They were gonna have this huge set piece, and it was gonna be like druids and Stonehenge, and it was gonna be really great. Except that they wrote it out, and they didn't know the difference between feet and inches. So when the person made it for them, that scene's great because they're like, "Oh, this looks amazing. I mean, this is gonna look great once we get the real one." And she's like, "This is it. What are you talking about? You told me 18 inches," and they're like, "No, we meant 18 feet." And so. It's like a Stonehenge for Barbie. It's really cute. And I love how when something goes wrong, they don't blame each other. That I think that that's also really prolific for a lot of like artists is that it doesn't even occur to them that maybe they're just not good. It's
Yeah.
all about like their manager's not doing something right, the record label's not doing something right. And then, Janine, the girlfriend comes in and she's like, well, I'll just take things over. And then she like finds them a venue that's it's like in a military base or something. That's amazing. Cause then they're like, there's six people that, and none of them, they're the most clean cut, like folks, right? And we
Yeah.
see, oh my gosh, um, it was interesting because Christopher Guest does all these other kind of satirical films later in
Yeah.
life that
Right.
have all of these folks still in them. I mean, we see Billy Crystal for a hot second, which was really amazing. You had to blink, or you missed him. Um, but we also saw, um, oh my gosh, Fred Willard was the Air Force lieutenant, and that was hilarious because he was just like, I'm super clean cut. You guys are covered in hair. This is excellent.
This is going to be excellent. This is going to be excellent. Yeah, you have Fred Willard there, who is prominently featured in the Christopher Guest films. You have, yeah, Billy Crystal, of course, uncredited in this. He's like a mime waiter, and the other mime waiter is Dana Carvey, who's
Yep.
basically unrecognizable. You must have only been like 16 years old at that time, so that's pretty funny. But yeah, the blame game always goes on, right? Ian Faith is the band manager. He's played by Tony Hendra, and I really like him because he's always trying to clean up the act. So obviously the Stonehenge there with the miswriting there of 18 inches instead of 18 feet, which is really funny. He's there sitting down with the artist, the woman that has made this Stonehenge, and she's like, "I'm so proud of this. It's so beautiful. You're going to absolutely love it." And she pulls off the veil for it, and of course it's this miniature Stonehenge. He's like, "That looks great. That's going to look so good when it's the real size." And she's like, "What are you talking about? This is the
This is
size you
it.
told me to make it. This is it. This is it." So that one's pretty good. I love they go to their hotel, and it's they had not booked them each individual suite, so they're just going to all have to stay in the same room. Ian gets thrown under the bus for that, and then yeah, Janine eventually kind of takes over the band. I want to say maybe I misheard this, but I am pretty sure that David St. Hubbins on his the very first phone call that he has with Janine refers to her as Yoko, and then she literally does come in and break up the band, which is of course some foreshadowing there for the Beatles. Back to this as well. I thought that was really good, but yeah, it's just like all of this crazy stuff that happens, and then of course Janine comes in. She's trying to do all this stuff, give everyone like a costume and things, and eventually, the band is just going to have enough, or maybe not even the band. Nigel himself is going to have enough. He's like, you know what, David St. Hubbins, you're going to have to choose. You're going to choose her, or you're going to choose the band. And sorry, Nigel, David St. Hubbins chooses her until he realizes that the band can't go on without his best friend, Nigel Tufnell.
That's right. I do love the way this goes from he says, "Oh, we shan't be performing together ever again," and then he and Derek are talking about what are they going to do, and they're like, "Oh, we've been thinking about this rock opera thing about Jack the Ripper. We'll call it Saucy Jack." And then they start singing it as if it's like a show tune, Saucy Jack, and it's just they're like again not in touch with reality at all. But I do really love that last kind of performance where they kind of go out and he's David St. Givens is David St. Hubbins is trying to um like put on a good show and it's just not the same. And then Nigel jumps on the stage in his green in his green skeleton shirt that he's like, this is an actual rendering of what's under my skin, which I thought, and it could be green. It actually could be green. We don't know because we can't see it because I'm alive. But they're singing together and everything's great. It kind of all's well that ends well. We find out that the song "Sex Farm," which is it's not it's my second favorite song. It's
Mhm,
so
mhm, mhm.
clever and yet over the top. Like you could never think it's quite adult, but it's really
It's
pretty
pretty.
good.
It's pretty adult. It's pretty adult.
Pretty good.
I love the final concert. Right, they've gone to Japan.
Yeah.
Because apparently one of their hits has gotten big in Japan, which is another
Yeah.
rock and roll trope, right? I'm huge in Japan, and apparently, Spinal Tap is currently huge in Japan. So they go, and Nigel is just there, like to onlook. He wants to see this debacle that's going to happen, right? Without
Hmm.
him, this could never go well, and it's going okay, right? But it doesn't have the same energy. It doesn't have the same feel. And David St. Hubbins is out there missing his bestie, shredding on the guitar. So I I love it so much. They lock eyes like on the side of the stage, and Christopher Guest is like pointing at myself. He's like, "You mean me? You want me to come back out there?" And of course he does. He just like grabs the guitar and just starts going going bananas on it
Yeah.
because he has the most incredible guitar collection of them all. He has amps that go to 11, and this is Spinal Tap. And it's about then that the drummer spontaneously combusts. He managed to survive the whole movie, right? Every time Marty DeBurgi's talking to him, he's basically like, "Are you worried you're gonna die yet? Do you think do you know how you're going to die? Do you have an idea of when it's going to happen?"
Well, and he always says, well, the averages are on my side. Dude, the averages are not on your side. We are like 8 for 1, 8 for 0. Like, there have been so many drummers, and all of them have died terribly. He's the second one that combusted. He's the second one. What
Yeah.
are they doing on that stage? But I love how, like, the very next shot, it shows that they have a new drummer, Joe Mama Besser, right? And
Hmm.
he's like
Hmm.
going nuts. Huge shout out to uh Savage. He is amazing, and
Mm.
I love when like they're trying to tie this all up at the end, and they're like, "What are your thoughts on life?" And he's like, "Having a good time all the time." Yeah, and it was like, okay, this is the best. And everybody else is trying to get like philosophical, and he's just like having a good time all the time. That's my goal. It's kind of
Having a good time all the time. Yeah, and it's exactly like I think it was the keyboardist in uh Almost Famous that we covered a few months ago here on the podcast, and the
mhm.
keyboardist in that one, same exact as Viv Savage. He's like, I'm just here, I just want to have a good time, right? He ends up with like all the ladies. He ends up just having the best time in Almost Famous, and you have to imagine at least a little bit an impressionable Cameron Crowe's little brain
Mhm.
that this was taking hold there absolutely. So yeah, this is Spinal Tap. A mockumentary is tough to talk about on one level because it's kind of a documentary, and this one is just like so crazy because it's basically just like an interview and then like a set piece and then an interview and a set piece, and they're all hilarious. So Michaela, mockumentaries are a film genre. I think this is the first one that we've ever talked about, and I mentioned it at the top. This one isn't. This isn't the first one, of course. There's been, several, but this was one of like the capstones, and obviously, I would assume that this film, in some part, played a role in, Christopher Guest's, career taking the turn that it did about 10 years later with the release of, Waiting for Guffman, and then,
Mhm.
Best in Show, and uh,
Yeah.
not really finishing, but had Mighty Wind there as well. There's a bunch of these, and it rolled over to television. Some of the most beloved television series of all time, The Office. And Parks and Recreation are based on this mockumentary style formula. Just ended What We Do in the Shadows mockumentary. So a lot of
Mhm.
those there. What are your kind of overall, I guess, I don't know, thoughts or quip notes or whatever about
Sure.
mockumentaries? Is it something you enjoy? Is it something you search out? Is it really dependent on the subject matter for you? What's the deal?
So I really enjoyed uh For Your Consideration, A Mighty Wind. I really loved Best in Show because I knew people who had like who were part of the dog show scene.
Mhm.
And it was like spot on and also hilarious. That was but that I had no idea that all of that kind of came from This Is Spinal Tap. And it's interesting. I'm not ashamed to say it. Maybe I'm a little ashamed. But this was the first time I ever saw This Is Spinal Tap, was for the purpose of the pod and to, understand what was going on as we go into Spinal Tap 2. Um, the end continues. So for me, it was kind of like watching like your grandfather do something that had taught your kids without
Mhm.
knowing
Mhm.
that it had been passed down, because you're right, there's so many iterations of kind of this formulaic mockumentary, like funny things that happened on camera, off camera, people having this direct kind of interview style, but also like being able to show the situational like comedy that people are finding themselves in, and then putting that in different scenarios, whether it's rehearsing for a movie, or a band on the road, or something, thinking that they're going to win an Academy Award, that kind of thing. Any of those scenarios are just kind of more different places, and uh, I don't know, to put this comedic kind of trope into.
Mhm.
But it was really good, and I'm so glad that I watched it now, because I think I have a deeper appreciation for how clever. the writing had to be for this to
Hmm.
continue to work. Because, as you said, we've done this a lot. We've done a lot of the same kind of stylistically like ideas, even though we're talking about different subject matters. And I find that to be really, like, again, just a really smart and kind of an intelligent way to get this comedy out into the masses, but
Hmm.
also kind of a way to express that art form. Because I mean, this film is pretty. I mean, it's hailed as one of the first ever that did this, and
Hmm.
to be able to still, I mean, people are super excited about how Spinal Tap 2 is going to come out, and people are also really scared because they have such a beloved like nostalgicness around the original, and I get it because it spawned all this other stuff that now is also very nostalgic to us. I mean, people love The Office. People, you know, they loved A Mighty Wind, right? Like there's everybody has their favorite of kind of those,
Hmm.
um, and it's kind of neat that it all came from this idea, of a bunch of
Yeah.
people just kind of getting together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited for the sequel that we're going to be seeing and talking about over on Patreon, patreon.com/drink the movies. We'll be discussing that there, but I'm really excited for it because it feels to me both in watching it, watching the previews for it, where it's basically intercutting the new film with this the original film from 1984, 41 years ago. It basically just seemed like it was Rob Reiner and Michael McKean and Christopher Guest were like, you know, you know what? We're getting old. Let's do this again because that would be fun, and all of our friends can come be in it, and it's just going to be a really good time, right? Right to do. It's going to be
Yeah,
hilarious because all of those people are still really funny. They're still really smart. They're still wicked smarts, and Spinal Tap is beloved both by people that love movies, people that love comedies, people that love rock and roll. Like rock and roll musicians love Spinal Tap. The songs from this band were covered and put in other movies and done at huge
yeah,
concerts by
yeah.
very very famous rock and roll people. And I think that the reason why this one in particular is so beloved, and you can make a similar argument, I think, for Christopher Guest's mockumentaries that he made as well, is because I feel like this movie is probably like well, 95% like fact, like could be actually real about this real band, right? Like this could be a real documentary about this real band, and it's 5% of over the top, right? It leans more honest than it does dishonest, which is what I think makes a really good one of these, right? Because you
Mhm.
could suspend your belief, and you could totally believe that this is some band from England that thinks that they're the greatest thing that's ever happened to the world and play the loudest shows and write the best songs. Like it's very believable that this could be a real band. And that's I think
Absolutely.
what makes it great.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
All right. Well, this is Spinal Tap. It's a really good one. If you've not seen it or you haven't seen it for a while, now would be a good time to brush up on it before you go see the sequel, or probably just a good time to brush up on This Is Spinal Tap. Anyway, maybe put on a track, maybe mix up a Jack and Coke. I don't know. You do you, but this is Spinal Tap. So, yeah, absolutely. If you do mix up a Jack and Coke, if you have a good variant on a Jack and Coke, if you have a fun This Is Spinal Tap cocktail you want to share with us, please do that. You can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of our Jack and Coke or pictures of any of the cocktails we've ever done here on the podcast, episode recaps, links to the merchandise shop, all that stuff can be found on our website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. And again, I mentioned we're going to be covering This Is Spinal Tap 2 over on our Patreon. We do hangouts, we do cocktail chats, we do all sorts of fun stuff over there. It's patreon.com/drink the movies. And we appreciate our patrons so much and looking forward to that hangout with everyone here this week. So, Michaela, now that they've done that, they've watched This Is Spinal Tap, they made a Jack and Coke, they, checked us out on Facebook. They're going to want to make sure that they're tuned in for the next podcast episode for sure, because we do two of them in a week. So, where
We
can they do
sure
that?
do. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Good Pods, anywhere really where Spotify podcasts are distributed and supported. As you said, we do 2 drops a week. There's a subscribe button on the rectangle that you're listening to us on. If you want to press that button, we will show up We will talk to you about all the movies. We will talk to you about all the drinks. If you're really loving what you're hearing, you can always leave us a 5-star review on any of the platforms that you listen to us on. That is super helpful in getting all the Drink the Movies stuff out there. And for those of you who love video games, Drink the Video Games is out. It is amazing. Check it out. The latest episode is only a couple weeks old now, and so go have a listen. I pop in for a cocktail, but that's really great too.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. And yeah, absolutely. So this is Spinal Tap. Michaela, let's go ahead and sign off. We're going to turn those amps back up to 11, see Spinal Tap 2, and we'll talk to everyone next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
movies.
Movies. Don't touch that one. Don't even look at it. Don't look at it.